Hello, 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 and welcome to Nursing News You Can Use at 5. I'm Tina Baxter, and I'm your host. Welcome to those of you that are joining us on the Nurse Shark Academy page, and those who are joining us on the Baxter Professional Services page, and hello to those who are on YouTube. We're going to get in started for today, August the 30th, 2023, the last Wednesday in August, about our nursing news show, and we have some great news to come up for you. Let's get started with our affirmations and inspirational sayings for today. Number one, wherever life plants you, bloom with grace. Wherever life plants you, bloom with grace. Number two, always expect nothing and appreciate everything. Always expect nothing and appreciate everything. And number three, old ways won't open new doors. Old ways won't open new doors. I think that's one that I needed to be reminded of today, is that we need to change, and sometimes we need to move up. So this is our inspirational sayings for today from the Inspirational Daily Calendar by Lauren Dratch. All right, let's go ahead and get into the news. But before we do, just a brief announcement. We just got out of our Fall Back in Love with Nursing event. I just left that event. We had a great event. So I'm going to say that replay will be available on our website, the Nurse Shark Academy website, for about 1 week, and then I'm taking it down and changing it. And so I will put that available for those of you that had trouble getting in because we had technical difficulties. I'm going to go ahead and post that on our website for a week, so it'll be available for you to download that webinar. And then after that, that webinar will be moved to members only status. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the news for today. So I don't know if you've heard about this, but Medicare has now gained the right to be able to negotiate with pharmaceutical companies to bring the prices down for certain drugs. And so there's 10 drugs that Medicare is looking to put on there. So this is coming from NBC News Now. And it says the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services on Tuesday announced the first 10 prescription drugs that will be subject to Medicare price negotiations under the Inflation Act that they just passed. So this is to reduce the cost of medications for individuals. So the drugs selected are things that are for diabetes and anticoagulation and blood thinners and things like this. So next year, Medicare will begin to, as they say in the article, haggle with drug makers over the prices for the costliest of medications. The negotiated prices will then go into effect in 2026. So it won't be an immediate thing. In 2024, they're negotiating. 2026, the price change will happen. Okay, so we're looking at Eliquis, Xarelto, Januvia, Jardiance, Enbrel, which is a rheumatoid arthritis drug, which important. Imbruvica, it's a medication for blood cancers. Farxiga, a drug for diabetes, heart failure, and chronic kidney disease. This is something that people have really needed, particularly those who are diabetic. So there's like 1, 2, 3 for diabetes so far. And Nestro, which you've probably seen the commercials for that's a heart failure drug. Stelara is a drug for psoriasis and Crohn's disease. And Fiaps and Novolog for diabetes. So a lot of these are for chronic health conditions like heart disease, rheumatoid arthritis, cancer, heart failure, diabetes, etc. So it says together the 10 drugs selected accounted for 50.5 billion, yes, that's billion with a B, or 20% of Medicare Part D spending from June 1st, 2022 to May 31st, according to CMS. So you're looking at a potential savings of $50.5 billion, which brings down the amount of spending that we have on our on medical expenses. So that's important. That's important. So this is some of the information that CMS has put out. It says nearly 1 in 10 have heart conditions that put them at risk for blood clots. About 28% of Medicare recipients have diabetes. About 27% have coronary artery disease. About 15% have heart failure, and about 1 in 4 have chronic kidney disease. So that's encouraging. We'll see what happens. There is a lot of reporting about the cost because big pharma likes to say, well, we need that money for R&D, but unfortunately they're not really using all that money for R&D, because as according to the article, Christine Link Young, who's the deputy assistant to the president for health and veteran affairs, says while pharmaceutical companies make record profits and spend hundreds of millions of dollars year after year, millions of Americans were forced to choose between paying for medications they needed to live or paying for basic necessities. So we're going to see, of course, the drug makers are pushing back. They have 30 days to sign the agreement to participate in the negotiations, or they may face tax penalties. So basically, if they don't come to the negotiating table, then they could potentially say, well, Medicare won't pay for any of your drugs. So we'll see what happens. But I want to let you know that this is something that's coming out, and we may see some more developments with this news. Okay. All right. Here's another article. This is from um, the American Journal of, hold on, AMGC. What is this? AMGC.com. All right. And it says that high prevalence of anxiety and depression found in nursing home residents with COPD. Now, I found this kind of interesting because I've worked with people, older adults who have COPD. So this is why I found this kind of interesting to know, as a person who also works in mental health care as well as geriatric care. So it says a high prevalence of depression and anxiety was found in nursing home residents with COPD, or chronic pulmonary disease, in a study in the International Journal of Chronic Obstructive Pulmonary Disease. Although it is widely known that COPD disproportionately affects older adults, the researchers noted that they know little about the epidemiology of COPD for those living in nursing homes. Limited information is available on COPD's psychological impact. The researchers explained that, based on the characteristics of nursing home residents with COPD, such patients most likely have accompanying depression or anxiety. Consequently, they conducted a study to, quote, estimate the prevalence of depression and anxiety among middle-aged and older long-term stay nursing home residents with COPD, and evaluate social, demographic, and clinical factors associated with depression and anxiety in this population. So in their study, they used the 2018 minimum data set, or the MDS, containing information about all nursing homes and residents in Medicare and Medicaid certified facilities. So they consisted of 239,615 long-term stay nursing home residents 50 or older. All right. So, according to the research, the findings show that a large proportion of nursing home residents with depression and anxiety were being treated with medication. 86% of residents with depression were treated with antidepressants, and 54.8% with anxiety were treated with anxiolytics. Despite this, several studies show that patients with COPD exhibit lower medication adherence rates. Consequently, the researchers suggested clinical teams consider non-pharmacological interventions for COPD-related anxiety and depression, like pulmonary rehabilitation, education, and psychosocial support. The research acknowledged several limitations to their study, one being that it did not differentiate between early onset and late onset depression, the latter being more frequently associated with selected comorbidities. So that's interesting to know. I thought that was an interesting article. And so if you want to know more, you can certainly read that article or go to the original study in the International Journal of Chronic Obstructive Pulmonary Disease. It just came out this year. All right. Now, remember we talked about the problems with staffing agencies and keeping nurses in some of these contracts. Well, here's another story out of Boston. CBS Boston picked up the story. So it says Estelle Jones has been a registered nurse for more than 4 decades. Now retired, she earns extra money picking up shifts for agencies that staff long term care facilities. Jones says she has always paid for her work until recently, has always been paid for her work until recently. She says she completed the assignment, everything. She's not been compensated, 120 hours. She thinks that's outrageous. So she's owed more than $7,000 since March. Jones says she worked for Rapid Response Staffing Agency in Canton, filling in on overnight shifts as a nurse at a nursing home in Stoneham. She says, I've gone into the office, I've sent her emails, I've texted her, she's changing payroll, she's going to wire it into my account. She paid 8 hours on April 3rd, one shift. So no one's answered at the door of the company's office. They got a recorded message when they called their phone number. The agency is owned by Ketley St. Fleur, a licensed practical nurse, according to her LinkedIn profile. When I-Team didn't find her at the office, we went to her home in Attleboro. She came to the door and called the police. St. Fleur told us in a text message, Rapid Response has no comment at this time. We cannot comment on confidential employee matters. Jones says she really needs her money, and she claims she's not alone. Co-workers have also had trouble getting paid. We listened to a voicemail message a colleague left on her phone telling Jones to keep emailing St. Fleur to get her money. Looking for answers, the I-Team reached out to the long-term care facility where Jones worked her shifts. They told us they paid Rapid Response Staffing Agency invoices, and it was their responsibility to pay Jones her wages. Not paying workers is called wage theft. An I-Team investigation in January revealed that the practice is widespread in Massachusetts, costing workers billions and the state tens of millions in revenue. We've caught up with the head of the Attorney General's Fair Labor Division at Wage Theft Clinic earlier this year. According to Assistant Attorney General Lauren Moran, she said it's stealing. So if you work and you don't get paid, your employer is stealing from you. It's the same as if you know they went into your wallet and took money from you. So Jones reported later that the company is now corresponding with her and is hopeful she will be paid the rest of her money she is owed. That's pretty sad. And I'm as you know, more nurses are traveling and doing things like that. Let me know if you come up against problems and you're getting paid. All right. Here's another interesting story, and I brought it up because we're seeing a rash of bad actors out there posing to be healthcare workers. I just read a story the other day about a person who impersonated a psychologist and billed all this money to Medicaid and Medicare. And now there's a story out of Bring Me the News, and it says, Mankato man with active warrant for arrest was hired by state to run nursing home. So I'm saying this because I found this interesting how this would happen. So this is in Minnesota. And it says a Mankato man who had a warrant out for his arrest was hired by the Minnesota Department of Health to run a nursing home. A spokesperson for MDH tells Bring Me the News, quote, an active arrest warrant did not appear on the background check that ran on 62-year-old Thomas Zakowski during the hiring process. After it was discovered, Zakowski was terminated from his position. Zakowski was hired as the director of Pine Haven Care Center in Pine Island, despite having been convicted of a DWI in 2022 in Bloomington and then violating the terms of his probation. He was arrested on the outstanding warrant on August the 7th and released the next day. A criminal complaint says Zakowski had a blood alcohol content of 0.29 when he was pulled over on July 16, 2022, over twice the legal limit in the state. Zakowski's sentencing for the DWI conviction was amended after his arrest. He was ordered to serve 30 days in jail and an additional 30 days of electronic monitoring. So this is kind of what happened. It says the state had previously taken over operations at the nursing home in 2022 after it was revealed that the care center had deep financial troubles and management issues. So that's pretty sad that that happened, but this is stuff that's happening more and more, that we're seeing people coming up with fake credentials. We all had that Nightingale scandal. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. And there's still a lot of fallout from that as well. So here's another story that's talking about W-2 workers and nursing. And I thought this was kind of interesting. This is from MedCity News. And it says that W-2 employed nurses can have choice and flexibility too. So there's been a debate over worker misclassification, where healthcare professionals need to know what that means. So staffing agencies designate their nurses as independent contractors, avoid the cost of employment-related benefits like insurance, workers' compensation, overtime pay. So that's part of the downfalls of being in the travel industry, is that oftentimes you don't have those safety nets of having healthcare insurance and things like that. And if you do, it might be bound to just your state and might not carry over to other states. There's a whole lot of things that are happening. And so that's where nurses need to know if they can get a policy that can cover them when they're going between travel gigs and things like that. So that means that they don't have to pay them overtime. Sometimes they don't have to pay them workman's comp, etc. So these agencies also lack necessary clinical and professional oversight of their contractors, which increases the risk of substandard care. So, they may not, because you're going to different facilities, the onus is kind of on that facility to train you in what you need to know to take care of their patients in their facility and learn their systems. So there's been a lot of chatter about this. And there's a distinction between nurses who work at 1099 independent contractors and W-2 employees. So concerns about work-life balance have come into the place. So there's a nurse who argues that being able to work as a 1099 independent contractor is central to her ability to practice nursing while maintaining the flexibility to coach track and manage her other family responsibilities. And that's one of the reasons why nurses like to go into these independent contractor positions, because they have flexibility. They can schedule their shifts, choose to work or not work around their lives. Because we all know that when you work a typical 9 to 5, you have to do what they want you to do when they want you to do it. But what she doesn't mention is that nurses do not need to operate as independent contractors to achieve these freedoms. Staffing companies that employ W-2 nurses offer the same level of choice and flexibility. Okay, so we're seeing this come up. So using app-based workforce management platforms, nurses that work with W-2 staffing agencies can choose the shifts they want when they want, while enjoying the benefits, clinical supervision, and legal protections offered to actual employees. So here's another thing that a lot of travel nurses don't know. If you're an independent contractor, you have to pay for your own malpractice insurance, and you may not be covered by the agency where you go work. Staffing agencies that designate their nurses as independent contractors avoid the cost of employment-related benefits like insurance, workman's comp, and overtime pay. And we've kind of talked about this. And it says the legal risks faced by healthcare institutions that use independent contractors as part of their workforce are very, very real. In 2021, the Department of Labor launched an initiative focusing on improving compliance in certain healthcare settings. Since then, the Department of Labor has conducted more than 1,600 investigations, identifying violations a staggering 80% of the time. Among the most common violations cited was the use of independent contractors who should, based on the nature of their work, be classified as employees. So, for instance, as an independent contractor, as long as I get the work done, it shouldn't matter what hours I work and where I work, right? But in some cases, it does matter. And so that's where, this is getting to those legal things. And this is why, if you're going to work as an independent contractor, I would advise you to talk to an attorney about what things you need to know. So this is some of the things that are coming up. And so I just wanted to have a chance to have a conversation about that. So you can look further into this article. All right. Here's another study that came out recently. This is from McKnight's Long-Term Care News. And this actually is very timely for me because it says study identifies risk factors for fall-related transfers among nursing home residents. It says long-term care residents with a history of falls, cognitive decline, and specific demographic characteristics were at a greater likelihood for fall-related hospital transfers than those who did not have the same risk factors, according to a new study. Falls are a leading cause of transfer of long-term care residents to the emergency department and hospital, researchers from Indiana University who conducted the study noted. In their study, researchers attempted to identify the characteristics of long-term care residents who were transferred to the hospitals due to falls compared to other non-fall related factors. So it says researchers found that residents who had a higher risk of hospital transfers due to falls were white, female, 80 years or older, experienced cognitive impairment, and had frequent or occasional episodes of incontinence. So these are the key risk factors in the study. And why this is important is if you can understand the risk factors, then maybe you can put some preventative measures into place. And according to the authors, it says overall, this study presents a silver lining to nursing facility teams who can incorporate these findings into developing care plans to identify the group of residents with high risk for fall-related transfers and address this risk with a multifaceted solution. These variables may also help in discussions with family and caregivers about hospital transfer risks. So that's a great article by McKnight, Long-Term Care News. So I would go ahead and get into that more, but that only goes to show and to further show some of the information that I knew as well. All right, and so this is our last story for today. And it's not really a nurse making a difference, but it's making a difference in nursing. So this is from Inside Indiana Business. And I happened to come across this article. And it says IU Nursing School welcomes largest ever class. As the country seeks to address the nursing shortage, the Indiana University School of Nursing has welcomed its largest, newest class of future RNs. The undergraduate Bachelor of Science program has registered 381 students this fall across IU's Bloomington, Indianapolis, and Fort Wayne campuses. It's the largest in the school's 109-year history. So I just want to say I'm very encouraged by this because that means that nurses or potential nurses are coming into profession. So I'm excited. Of that 381, 120 are based in Bloomington, 169 in Indianapolis, and 92 in Fort Wayne. So about 1,335 students are returning to the program as well. So I think that's great, and I think we need to celebrate that. And then, of course, in Fort Wayne, Taylor University, Fort Wayne, I attended the Upland campus, but they opened up a nursing school. So we're starting to see a push to open up more training spots. So I'm encouraged by that. We need more nurses in the field, definitely. And it says the school has 3 tracks, including traditional, accelerated, and RN to BSN degree completions for nurses who have a 2-year degree and who want to earn a BSN. So that's very exciting. So I want to congratulate IU for their record number of nursing students coming into the program. So that's exciting. So that is all of our news for today. And I am like losing my voice from today. But I'm very encouraged by that, and I wanted to share some great news of what's happening in the healthcare field. And of course, invite you to join us on our social media pages. Please like, share, and subscribe our content. And also for the things that are coming up next month. So as always, we have at Baxter Professional Services Health Education, we have our CPR trainings, TB trainings going on as well. We have the CNA school accepting applications. So if you know of someone who wants to get their CNA training, send her our way. We're opening up our school for that. It's open and we're accepting applications. We're hoping in 2024 to also open up qualified medication aid. So those are things that we have coming down the pike. And again, I want to wish you the very best for the end of August and see you in September. Bye bye